Hello and welcome to the third quarter Sheriff's Roundup for 2016. I'm Sheriff Bill Brown, coming to you this time from the Sheriff's Coroner's Office in Santa Barbara. We want to begin this roundup by highlighting a unit of the Sheriff's Office that provides a critical service to our community. The Sheriff's Coroner's Unit is made up of a team of professionals who are responsible for all death investigations in Santa Barbara County, regardless of jurisdiction. Last year, in 2015, our Coroner's Unit handled more than 1,500 death cases, with more than 600 requiring full investigations by coroner's detectives within the unit. Not only is the job demanding, it's very emotionally challenging, as our staff members must routinely deal with family members during the worst of times, after the loss of a loved one. Ultimately, their job is to help find answers and bring closure to grieving family members.
The purpose of the coroner's office is to determine cause and manner of death on every death in the county. And that's our goal. 3,100 people died in 2015 in this county. We handled almost 1,600 of those cases in one form or fashion. If a person hasn't been seen by a doctor in the last 20 days, doesn't appear to be a natural death, and there's not a doctor willing to sign their death certificate, we will do the investigation and we will either give it a cause of death or convince a doctor that they are able to sign based on the medical records and the investigation we conduct. We do about 120 to 140 autopsies a year. All homicides get autopsied. All possible SIDS cases or SIDS cases get autopsied. Any suspicious death where we cannot determine a cause of death can get autopsied. Males, if you're 50 and under and you've died and we don't have medical records to show us why you should be dead, then you're probably going to get an autopsy. Females, 55 and under. If you're not very old and there's no reason for you to be dead, then we need to find out why.
You okay with the one jar?
We have one forensic pathologist, very lucky to have him, Manny Montez. He's worked in New York, the Chicago area, and Riverside.
The sheriff, Bill Brown, is the coroner, head of our office, and it's his office's job to investigate deaths in the community. The pathologist's responsibility in a coroner's office is only for cause of death. The manner of death is ruled on by the coroner or the detectives. My job is also to help them with cases or questions that they have. The focus of the investigation, however, in a coroner's office, as it's led by the detective, they will be in touch with law enforcement, they will be in touch with doctors, they will make the phone calls.
In our office, we have 4 detectives. They handle picking up the body, delivering the body to either here or a mortuary, conducting the rest of the investigation, getting medical records on those bodies, often contacting the next of kin.
You want to have them cremated, correct?
We immediately touch base with the families. Once we touch base with them, then they have a point of contact, the family, of who to ask questions to, who is going to handle their loved ones all the way till they get released to a mortuary. And as soon as we could get them released, the better off it is for the families.
Families come in unannounced quite often concerning the deaths of their loved ones, and they're hurting. So we bring them in, and we have a bereavement room here in the office with a couch, there's a table and chairs. You feel for each family. Anybody that sees another person in pain knows that the only way to help is soothe that pain, answer questions, just be straightforward with people so they can, get through what they're working through. We just assist the families in that way. And a lot of them are, they're hurt, especially a lot of the suicide cases or cases with suspicious deaths or when children die. Obviously, that's tougher times.
A lot of families have difficulties accepting death because it is the final. We do a really good job of saying, this is what it looks like, this is why. And 9 times out of 10, they're acceptable to it.
For a normal call-out situation, whether a crime has occurred or a very suspicious death where a criminal investigations division detective is getting involved, we will have a second report, the coroner report, and then ultimately, it comes down to the autopsy and to the toxicology reports. And then we'll share that information with the criminal investigations division, and then we'll put both together and hopefully come up with why the person died and how it happened.
At the conclusion of the hands-on autopsy, we have additional studies that we sometimes order, toxicology, microscopic examinations. Those tests will then be sent out. When all of the information has come back, that's when I make a determination as to what the cause of death is. If we're dealing with, say for example, a homicide, gunshot wounds or stabbings, it's a little more involved. In those particular cases, we're dealing with evidence, bullets that we may need to pull out, any other type of evidentiary findings that we can see in the body. And that's more of a detailed exam, really focusing on the report to make sure we're clear and concise for trial. My in-house team is essentially office staff, the detectives. They're the ones that go out and take jurisdiction over their individual cases. They do all the reports, all the investigations, speak to families, speak to doctors, get the medical records. I basically then take over the case once we come in here to do the exam. They've been an amazing group to work with, very knowledgeable, very dedicated. It's been fantastic. We have 2 on-call retired detectives who will come in and assist me at the autopsy table. I also consider the family, if you will, are the investigators, the police departments, the district attorneys. They're all welcome to their cases. It's an open door policy.
It's one of those divisions that a lot of people don't know about or they hear about, but until they need them or deal with them, you don't realize that they're there and what is done and what transpires daily in this office.
Thank you to everyone at the coroner's office. We owe all of you a huge debt of gratitude for the challenging work that you do and the personal sacrifices that you make to provide this important service to our community. As you've heard from members of the coroner's staff, cases involving children are especially difficult for everyone involved. Sheriff's detectives recently investigated the homicide of 18-month-old Delilah Cosio Molina of Orchid, who was brought to the hospital on June 26th with a traumatic head injury. She was ultimately taken off life support after being declared brain dead. Following an investigation, her mother's boyfriend, 24-year-old Sean Cothe, was arrested and charged with murder and assault on a child causing death. On the 4th of July, sheriff's detectives also investigated the murder of 28-year-old Enrique Herrera of Lompoc, who died from injuries sustained during an assault. Following an investigation, sheriff's detectives arrested his older brother, 30-year-old Arturo Herrera. The defendants in each of these cases are awaiting trial on murder charges. A great example of how a murder investigation is never truly over until those responsible are identified and brought to justice is the case of Vernon Hart Kendrick. This furniture salesman was found murdered back in July of 1988 at his studio apartment in Montecito. He was last seen leaving a downtown Santa Barbara restaurant with a man, possibly from Florida. Sheriff's detectives developed a person of interest, but were unable to identify that person at the time. Due to advancements in DNA technology, in 2010, Sheriff's forensic technician Mike Schwab submitted critical evidence that had been recovered from the scene to the Department of Justice Crime Lab, and a suspect DNA profile was entered into the CODIS system. On August 18th, the crime lab reported that a match had been made, indicating the DNA belonged to an inmate who was being held on theft-related charges at the Sarasota County Jail in Florida. Upon further investigation, sheriff's detectives arrested 52-year-old Larry Lon Lee and charged him with Kendrick's murder. A press conference was held at sheriff's headquarters to announce the cold case arrest. Forensic technician Michael Uhlemeyer was one of the original crime scene technicians on the case. We also want to thank forensic technician Mike Schwab for not giving up on this case and for submitting evidence 22 years after the fact, which led us to the perpetrator 28 years after the crime occurred. September 13th was a big day for the Sheriff's Office and the Santa Barbara County Fire Department at the Board of Supervisors meeting. The board approved a new memorandum of understanding between the Sheriff's Office and the County Fire Department to continue the Air Support Unit's combined operations. Here's Lieutenant Eric Rainey to let us know how this remarkable joint operation will continue to enhance public safety in Santa Barbara County.
We're here at our hangar in Santa Ynez, where we house 5 Air Support Unit aircraft, including 3 Huey helicopters and 2 OH-58 patrol helicopters. Each of our helicopters has a different mission capability, and we keep this number of aircraft so that we have the right aircraft available for any kind of mission that may come up. When you look at an air asset and an aviation program like ours, it's really understated how important it is to have for a county in terms of its public safety capabilities. The Air Support Unit flies 4 primary types of missions. We fly our fire missions, general law enforcement missions. We fly medical rescue and search and rescue missions. In 2015 and to date in 2016, We've gone on literally dozens of calls in the backcountry to rescue injured or missing subjects. If you think about that lost or missing hiker who otherwise couldn't be rescued if it weren't for air assets, you realize how important it is.
Book is secured, patient is secured, all personnel equipment are secured.
We have hoist capabilities. So all of our rescuers, both the paramedics from the fire department that work in the unit, as well as our crew chiefs, deputy and fire crew chiefs that are assigned to the unit, all are hoist trained, hoist capable. All of our pilots are certified in hoist operations, and that enables us to both lower rescuers down to the patients and to be able to evacuate those patients up into the helicopter. And it's critically important that we have those mission capabilities. The County Air Support Unit is unique in that it's a joint operation with County Fire and Sheriff. We make sure that all of our aircraft and our mission readiness can handle both any law mission and any fire mission. As part of our mission readiness, a helicopter is deployed with every vegetation fire. And what that does is allow us to get an initial attack on a fire from the air and from the ground, and often stop a fire before it spreads into an out of control status. Both on the Sherpa fire and on the Ray fire, we had a helicopter in the air dropping water on those fires within the first 20 minutes. It really shows how both of our agencies are working for the same goal. And we work together every day with that same goal in mind, public safety. Another one of our missions that we're prepared for are general law enforcement missions. We have a pilot and a tactical flight officer, and they respond to calls for service from all over the county and all law enforcement agencies in the county, as well as fly general patrol missions. It's critically important for deputies and officers on the ground to have the availability of the air resources. There are so many things that the helicopter can see that the deputies on the ground can't. One recent case that our patrol helicopter was involved in is when our deputies on the ground were trying to capture a parolee at large.
Break, Copter 2, suspect is on the roof.
That parolee had barricaded himself inside of a house and tried to escape by climbing out a window onto a roof. If it weren't for our airship overhead, who saw him on the roof, he would have eluded capture. Probably one of the greatest capabilities, other than just the overall view from the air, that our law enforcement helicopters have is the forward-looking infrared, or the FLIR camera. This is a camera that can see and record heat signature images in infrared at night. It assists us both with fire mapping capabilities, search capabilities, and also for locating suspects who are fleeing from law enforcement. A great example of the FLIR in use is something that our unit won an award for.
Looks to be a subject that's laying down behind some tree lines.
In this case, a drive-by shooting in Lompoc. The suspect had fled into the brush on Vandenberg Air Force Base. Our law ship was called into the air, did a search with the infrared camera, and actually located the suspect on the ground and was able to direct our canine units and our deputies on the ground, and were able to capture the suspect.
And the canine's going to be up on him now. Mooney, 5 Mike Delta Senate. 5 Mike Delta Dag. How long has your flight been? My flight is 13 hours, 11 minutes, and it's going to be just about spot on.
Our staff at the Air Support Unit consists of 4 pilots, 2 fire captains who work as crew chiefs, 2 tactical flight officers who work on our law enforcement helicopters, 2 mechanics, and a manager from the Sheriff's Department and a manager from the Fire Department. It takes all of those people to run this air operation and keep our mission capabilities where they need to be, our mission readiness where they need to be. And it's a huge undertaking, both from a standpoint of keeping the aircraft safe and airworthy, to keeping our crews well-trained and ready to respond to any type of emergency or situation. Our air support unit fills a need in this county, a critical public safety need, from a fire suppression aspect, from a law enforcement aspect, and from a search and rescue aspect.
And rescue check part 3 is complete, boss.
Thanks, Eric, and everyone at the Sheriff Fire Air Support Unit for the brave and exacting work that you do to protect our citizens each and every day. With all the fires we've had recently, it's a good time for an important reminder that now is the time to prepare in case you need to evacuate. For this edition of Focus on Safety, Commander Kelly Moore gives us an important checklist of what those of us who live in areas that could be threatened by wildland fire need to do to prepare.
When there is a fire, and we have a fair amount of them in this area, what does it mean when the Sheriff's Department becomes involved with evacuations? So there's a couple of different levels of evacuation warnings or orders that the public is going to hear.
People are being told to leave as this fire continues to behave very erratically.
First of all, they're going to get an evacuation warning. Hopefully that gives somebody enough time to start preparing themselves for the potential of evacuations. That's when they should start getting their precious belongings together.
The blaze is a threat to homes, and we know that mandatory evacuation orders were sent out to about 250 residents.
And when we progress to an evacuation order, what that means is that the threat is imminent and that we're asking people to leave their residence as quickly as possible. If you're not mobile or you have a low level of mobility, you're going to need more time to evacuate. So you're going to need to heed these warnings very soon because it's going to take you a lot longer to move out. You need to take medicine. You need to take your pets with you. You need to make arrangements if you have large animals. Where are we going to take those? How are we going to take those out? So we're going to have to take all of those things into account and understand that those are on our top priority of how we're going to evacuate. Some of the things that you need to worry about is grabbing the stuff that is irreplaceable. TVs, clothes, those types of things are replaceable. Things that aren't replaceable are vital documents, marriage certificates, birth certificates, insurance policies, things that you're going to need in the very near future that are going to be very difficult to replace. Photo albums, things that can no longer be replaced. Those are the things that you should be taking with you. And the way that I like to have people identify them is with a 3-color system of stickers where you can store your items, your precious items, and then put a green, yellow, or red sticker on the item itself. And what that means is, in an emergency, you can quickly identify the items that you are going to immediately take with you. If you go through that process, when it becomes an emergency, it really speeds up the process and it reduces the stress level. Talking about protecting your own property, you can contact the Santa Barbara County Fire Department and go to their website, and you can talk to your local fire station and they'll tell you how to prepare a defensible space around your immediate home. Oftentimes we're not at the house when the fire is happening, and sometimes you may not be allowed back into the affected areas to get those precious items. So storage of the valuable items that you really have to take with you is very important. So we really need to start looking at fire safes or something that is fire rated. And there's all kinds of safes that are rated for different periods of time depending on your immediate situation. They rate them anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple of hours. And it may sound a little odd, but gun safes are oftentimes very good at the fire protection rating. So even though you don't own any firearms, this may be a very good option to protect your valuables.
Thanks, Kelly, for those important evacuation preparedness tips. We also want to remind our residents to sign up to receive Santa Barbara County Aware and Prepare alerts by going to our website at www.sbsheriff.org. There, you can also sign up to receive alerts from the Sheriff's Office on Nixle, or you can also text 888-777 from your phone. Remember, if we can't reach you, we can't alert you. More than 50 former state prisoners are better prepared to be in our community now after completing a comprehensive reentry program. In August, these parolees graduated from the Day Reporting Center program at ceremonies held both in Santa Barbara and Santa Maria. For 6 years now, the centers have been places where former state prisoners could learn important skills to help them re-enter society and avoid falling back into destructive patterns of behavior. The Sheriff's Office manages these centers in conjunction with our partner agency, Community Solutions Incorporated. Former offenders are given instruction, counseling, and support in such areas as housing, vocational training, employment, life skills, and substance abuse treatment. Client of the Year awards were handed out at both ceremonies.
Our client of the year at this year's CRT is Sergio Seda.
I feel encouragement. They help me out a lot, and not just physically, but like mentally. Now I'm working, I'm saving some money, and I know that I gotta do a lot of work, and hopefully everything works out. I know what's in front of me. I just gotta keep my right state of mind and just keep focusing on what I'm doing and succeed.
Best of luck to all of the graduates, and thank you to everyone involved in this important program. You're helping change lives and reduce repeat crime in our community. In September, 22 custody deputies graduated from the first ever Allen Hancock Corps Custody Deputy Academy. The graduating class included 15 custody deputies from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office and 7 correctional deputies from the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office.
I will never act viciously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions.
The graduates received their certificates of completion at a formal ceremony held at the Allen Hancock Public Safety Training Complex in Lompoc. The Academy is designed to prepare students mentally, morally, emotionally, and physically to work as correctional officers.
We live in an era where the concept of service above self is often portrayed as outdated or even foolish. Your decision to enter public service, to serve others, is a repudiation of that belief. You may not have realized it when you filled out the application, but something drove you to pick this path when there were other paths available that might have been easier. The world you are about to inhabit is among the most challenging in the criminal justice profession. You will be challenged in ways that will test your patience, your courage, and the principles of the Constitution. This academy has prepared you well.
We want to congratulate Custody Deputy Francisco de la Mora for receiving both the Valedictorian and Leadership Awards. We also want to recognize and congratulate Custody Deputy Giuseppe Arnaldi for receiving the Most Inspirational Award. Custody Deputy Arnaldi was among the 13 graduates who were sworn in as custody deputies in July and received their badges in a special ceremony held at Earl's Place at the Earl Warren Showgrounds. In August, another 9 custody deputies were sworn in and also received their badges at a ceremony held at the Sheriff's Training Bureau. We're excited to welcome this great group of new custody deputies to our Sheriff's Office family. The Sheriff's Office also recently welcomed Administrative Office professionals Ana Maria Thingvold, Angel Hernandez, and Ryan Bermudez. Kirsten Hargreaves joined the Sheriff's team as a dispatcher and Jose Valenzuela as an aircraft mechanic. Ryan Schwartz was hired as a financial office professional and Ricardo Gamboa as a new computer systems specialist. At that ceremony, we also honored 14-year veteran Rob Minter by promoting him to the rank of Sheriff Sergeant. We welcome all of our new employees and wish them a great career ahead. We also want to thank our Human Resources team for working so hard to recruit and prepare these outstanding candidates for employment. The Sheriff's Office is always looking for people who want to make a positive difference and serve their community. If you're interested in applying for a job with us, please go to our website at www.sbsheriff.org. Sheriff's Deputy Dave Wickland was recently recognized for making a difference in the Orchid community. Deputy Wickland was presented with an award at the Santa Maria Elks 45th Annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Night. Wickland was honored for his work, which led to the arrests of a group of suspects responsible for smash and grab robberies from vehicles in the Santa Maria Valley. Great job, Deputy Wickland, and thank you to the Santa Maria Elks Club for your continuing tradition of recognizing law enforcement. The City of Goleta recently honored 2 sheriff's deputies and a dispatcher for helping save the life of a man who was found on the floor after suffering a massive heart attack. Dispatcher Jill Steinmetz was recognized for providing life-saving medical instruction over the phone, while deputies Philip Farley and Shane Moore were honored for resuscitating the patient for several critical minutes before paramedics arrived. In a heartwarming moment, the citizen they helped save met and publicly thanked these deputies and dispatcher. A Santa Ynez resident is also grateful to the first responders who helped save his life when he also suffered a massive heart attack at his home. After he was released from the hospital, Gino Philippin met with Senior Deputy James Korowski and Deputy Bradley Adams to thank them for providing similar life-saving measures until paramedics arrived and took over. In this case, the deputies used an automated external defibrillator to provide the heart attack victim with a life-saving electronic shock when he was found to be in a lifeless condition. Well done, everyone. You make us proud. One of the easiest ways you can help save a life is by donating blood. It's estimated that every 2 seconds, someone in the United States needs a blood transfusion. A blood drive was held at the Sheriff's Office headquarters in August. We thank everyone who came by and donated blood, and we want to especially recognize one of our retired deputies, Anita Diaz, for coordinating this special event. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Sheriff's Roundup. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe, and thanks for supporting us as we protect your safety.